I call to order the regular meeting of the Mount Pleasant City Commission, Monday, November 28th, 2022 at 7 p.m. Please rise for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Mount Pleasant City Commission recognizes the Anishinaabe, whose ancestral lands the city stands upon today. We acknowledge the Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe and recognize the three bands of Ojibwe, Saginaw, Black River, and Swan Creek, comprise the tribe that have resided on this land for over 200 years. Our acknowledgement of the full history of the tribe and our commitment to be good stewards of these ancestral lands is an expression of gratitude and appreciation to those ancestors who came before us. We give thanks to the generous care with which the Anishinaabe and those members of the Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe of Michigan have given and continue to give to this land in our community. Clerk Bout, can you please take the roll?
Commissioner Asman?
Here.
Commissioner Chapman?
Here.
Commissioner Ake is absent. Commissioner Ronan is absent. Commissioner Bush? Here. Vice Mayor Alsager?
Here.
Mayor Perschbacher?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, since we have a quorum, we will continue our meeting. At this time, we have a couple of introductions.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Good evening. I'm here tonight to introduce our newest officer, Austin Paul. He joined the police department on November 21st of this year. He previously served as a deputy sheriff with the Gladwin County Sheriff's Office, and he continues to serve as a volunteer firefighter for the Gladwin Fire Department. Austin has earned an associate's degree in technology management from Kirtland Community College and is currently working towards a criminal justice degree at Lansing Community College. So with that, if you could turn and face me, Austin, raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Austin Paul, do solemnly swear
I, Austin Paul, do solemnly swear
that I will support, defend, and uphold
will support, defend, and uphold
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the laws of the state of Michigan,
the laws of the state of Michigan,
and the ordinances of the city of Mount Pleasant
and the ordinances of the city of Mount Pleasant
to the best of my abilities.
to the best of my abilities.
Congratulations, Austin. You are now a certified police officer for the city of Mount Pleasant. Austin wanted me to let everybody know that he is a Gladwin High School alumni and that he could not be more pleased by starting off his career with his old high school beating the high school that the director of public safety graduated from. So he was very happy with their state championship, very pleased. And I'll give him a chance now to say a few words if he wants to.
Thank you, Director.
Yep.
I would just like to thank everybody. The entire hiring process has been great. I'm honored to come work for the city of Mount Pleasant, begin my career here long-term. I'd like to thank everybody from the city, along with the Department of Public Safety, and along with my family who's here today as well. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Welcome, Officer
Yes,
Paul.
thank you.
Boy, we're all set. Oh, sure. Next, Amy. By the way, all these introductions are a result of retirement, not turnover. So I just want to make that abundantly clear. Next, it's my pleasure to introduce Amy Murphy, who recently joined the Division of Public Safety as a police records supervisor. Amy is currently training with current records supervisor Christy Dush, who will retire at the end of this year. Amy previously worked as the court recorder and judicial secretary for the Honorable Eric James, as well as served as a receptionist for the Isabella County Prosecutor's Office. A graduate of Farwell High School, Amy studied psychology at Saginaw Valley State University. Good, that's great. Welcome, Amy, to the Division of Public Safety. It's my honor to introduce you. If you want to say a few words.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I am thrilled to come over from the county. This is going to be a wonderful start of a new career. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, welcome.
Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Okay. Do I have a motion to accept the agenda as presented?
I move.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, no. Motion carries. We'll move forward with the agenda. At this time, we'll open the floor for public comment on agenda items. If you wish to speak on something that is on the agenda today, you may come to the podium. You'll ask to state your name and your address, and you'll be given 5 minutes. If you're joining us by Zoom, are we able to do Zoom? Okay. Well, just wanted to make sure before I went through that whole thing again. If you're able to join us by Zoom and you wish to speak, you may use the raised hand feature or *9 if you're joining Zoom by phone. At that time, you will be entered into the meeting. You'll be asked to state your name and address, and you'll be given 5 minutes. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak at this time? Is there anyone on Zoom that wishes to speak?
There are no raised hands.
All right, I will close the public comment, and we will move on to the receipt of petitions and communications. Manager DeSun?
Receipt of petitions and communications this evening includes minutes of the Economic Development Corporation Brownfield Redevelopment Authority from June, minutes of the Airport Joint Operations and Management Board, October, minutes of the Zoning Board of Appeals, October, notice of temporary traffic control order number 1, 2023, and notice of temporary traffic control order number 2, 2023.
Thank you. Are there any items on the consent calendar that need to be removed and placed on the agenda? Seeing none, I'm going to ask Manager DeSense to go through the consent items.
Absolutely. Consent items this evening includes approval of the minutes from the regular meeting held November 14, 2022, consider trade-in of our current backhoe and approval of the purchase of a 2023 model Caterpillar backhoe from Michigan Cat for a net cost of $104,900, consider custodial services contract with Romanow Building Services for 2023 through 2025. The rates are provided in your packet. The contract does have a built-in increase of 9% over that 3-year period. Consider purchase of police administration vehicle as part of the Crapo Ford buyback program. Consider purchase of Lucas devices from Stryker Medical, which the city received a grant to purchase from the Mount Pleasant Area Community Foundation for a cost not to exceed $53,665. Consider approval of a letter of support from Michigan State Housing Development Authority Neighborhood Enhancement Program application. Consider budget amendment for water treatment chemicals for $19,000 for a 2022 purchase. This will save the city an estimated $4,000 in future chemical costs due to the rising costs of chemicals in 2023. And consider approval of payrolls and warrants.
All right, do I have a motion to accept the consent items as presented?
A motion.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, no. All right, motion carries. We're going to move on to our public hearing. Our public hearing tonight is about the Development District license for China Master and consider resolution of the same. Manager DeSenza?
I'm actually going to hand this one off to Downtown Development Director Michelle Sponseller to tee up for us this evening.
Good evening. Always a good evening when I can tell you about a new business in town.
Yes.
So China Master is requesting City Commission approval for a development district, or DDA license as they are known, pursuant to Act 501 of 2006 in order to provide alcohol service for their new business located at 1216 South Mission, formerly known as the Pizza Hut location. Hitting some of the highlights, they meet all of the necessary requirements from the State of Michigan Liquor Control, which is they are within an appropriate district. They are engaged in dining, entertainment, recreation, and open to the general public, have a seating capacity more of 25, an investment greater than $75,000 for the restoration of the building, and they have also been approved for their special use permit by the Planning Commission.
Okay, thank you. Because this is a public hearing, if somebody wishes to speak on this item, you may step forward to the podium. You'll be asked to state your name and address, and you'll be given 5 minutes. If you're joining us by Zoom, you will use the raised hand feature, or *9. If you're joining Zoom by phone, you'll be let into the meeting and you'll be asked to state your name and address, and you'll be given 5 minutes. Is there anyone that wishes to speak about on the China Master receiving a DDA license? Is there anyone in Zoom that wishes to speak?
There are no raised hands.
All right, it doesn't look like anybody is rushing the podium. So I will close the public hearing and ask the commission if they have any questions or need any clarification on any of this before we move forward. No? Okay. I will consider a motion at this time.
I move that we grant China Master the DDA license.
Okay. Does that include the resolution as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, do we have a second for that?
Second.
All right, are there any further discussion on this? Any thoughts, any comments? No? Then we will go to a roll call.
Commissioner Ronan is absent. Commissioner Chapman?
Yes.
Commissioner Bush?
Yes.
Commissioner Ake is absent. Commissioner Asman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Alsager?
Yes.
Mayor Perschbacher?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Now we will move on to new business. The first is to consider the resolution approving the final 2023 operating budget and set the millage rate for 2023. Manager DeSenza?
Absolutely. So now we've had a couple of work sessions on the subject. We've had a presentation on the 2023 budget. The City Commission is asked to adopt the proposed 2023 budget. The proposed budget will expend $46.5 million. The budget maintains the current 16.25 millage rate, which is the same as this past year. The budget will use $383,620 of unassigned fund balance, which will leave the city with an estimated remaining unassigned fund balance of $2.8 million, which is sufficient and does meet our policy for unassigned fund balance. Staff recommends a motion to adopt the attached resolution, which will adopt the proposed 2023 budget.
All right, does the commission have any questions for clarification on anything? Then I will ask for a motion.
I would support a resolution to approve the final 2023 operating budget and set millage rate.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, any further discussion? I'd like to say that, as always, the staff does a wonderful job putting together the budget and working with all of those numbers. When you're looking at what the city does and how much we use to maintain the city and to provide the services, it's a lot of work. And I appreciate the staff doing all of this because I know that it takes a lot. And we always stay within that limit that we want to stay moving forward. At this time, we will entertain a vote. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, no. Motion carries. All right, now we're going to move on to consider the resolution supporting amended rates, fees, and charges.
So our 2023 city budget is supported by various utility rates, fees, and fines. This year, staff is recommending only an increase to the utility fees for water and sewer. The water fees will need to increase primarily due to the increased cost of disposing of lime residual, of which we plan to spend over $400,000 both this year and next year as well, too. Sewer fees will increase due to the debt service for upgrades to the water resource recovery facility. For those of you that recall, we did the project in 2 phases, $8.4 million in phase 1 and an estimated $18 million in phase 2, with $9 million of that being granted by the state for a net cost of $17.4 million to the city. Not too far off the initial estimate of $18 million for that project. But regardless, the net impact on the proposed utility rate increases will increase the average homeowner bill by $5.44 per month.
Okay. Are there any questions for clarification at this time? All right, I will entertain a motion.
I move that we support the resolution amending rates, fees, and charges.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say yes. Yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, no. Motion carries. All right, so everybody should have a list of the reappointments. It was in I think the last page of your packet. We're going to consider reappointments of the various boards and commissions as recommended by the Appointments Committee. And I'm going to give the floor to Vice Mayor Alsager.
Thank you. The Appointments Committee didn't physically meet. We did this by email, and we agreed that this was kind of an easy process since these are reappointments. It isn't that we were trying to seek out new members, even though we still are seeking out members of various committees. But this is to approve tonight the people that have been on committees that have agreed to extend their terms. And so we're suggesting that we do approve this.
Okay, are you suggesting that we do it in one motion?
Yes, one lump.
Okay. Is there any clarification that needs to be had at this time? Okay, I will entertain a motion.
I would recommend that we support these nominations.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Are there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, no. All right. We are going to move on to announcements on city-related issues and new business. This is where the commission has time, the commission has a moment, and staff can also bring something forward. Is there anything that anyone on the commission would like to state? Commissioner Bush.
I would like to add my thanks and the thanks of the commission to so much gratitude from our community for yet another very generous presentation of various 2% grants from the Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe, which are going to be so beneficial to the continued great things that we can do together with our community in cooperation with our tribal partners.
Yes, thank you. Vice Mayor Alsager.
I'd just like to mention that downtown is hosting a holiday celebration this Friday and Saturday.
Yes, with the lighted parade on Saturday. Any other announcements? You guys are such a quiet group. All right, at this time, We are going to move to public comment on agenda and non-agenda items. If you wish to make a comment on anything that we talked about tonight or something that you would like to bring forward as the public, you may come to the podium. You'll be asked to state your name and address, and you'll be given 5 minutes. If you have joined us by Zoom, you can use the raised hand feature or *9 if you've joined Zoom by phone. You'll be moved into the meeting, asked to state your name and address, and be given 5 minutes. Is there anyone out there that wishes to come to the podium and state comments, thoughts, ideas, complaints? Is there anybody on Zoom?
There are no raised hands.
Everybody must still be in a turkey coma. Is that what's happening here? All right. Tonight we have a work session. I'm going to close the public comments and since nobody has come forward. We have a work session tonight on the property maintenance code, and we're going to do the MML annual convention learning session. We're going to take a 5-minute break, 5-minute recess, and then come back. We're on recess for 5 minutes.
It came back on. So it's been sitting there since Friday.
All right, we are back in session. At this time, we're going to do a discussion on the property maintenance code.
Absolutely. I'm going to hand this off to Assistant Fire Chief Doug Lopsinger. He's going to present a case for a stricter property maintenance code to the City Commission. Staff is asking for input on this proposed code in order to address a number of concerns around town regarding blighted housing and other property concerns. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Doug.
Good evening, everyone.
Evening.
I'd like to talk to you tonight a little bit about property standards. Our goal for this evening is to provide you with some information about what property standards are, what they are in Mount Pleasant as they are today, and a little direction is needed to help us to shape our ordinances in the future to maybe do a more effective job or a better job of enforcing them or maintaining our city. So you'll see I did give you a packet of information, about 19 pages. It does have some pictures of some specific properties. And it does have some references to the International Property Maintenance Code, which we will be talking about. I will be providing that to you electronically. I didn't want to kill a couple of trees tonight to give you that. That's a good reference to look at for you. So what is property standards and what's the purpose for that? It's to maintain property standards, maintain health, safety and welfare of our homes and properties in the city. How do we do that? We do that by establishing minimum standards. And minimum standards for exterior, interior. We do that by fixing and assigning the responsibilities to the proper people, such as the property owners, the tenants, the local agents, those sorts of things, and providing administrative and enforcement structure to carry that out. So why should we look at stronger property ordinance standards? We have one now that we passed in 2020. And we've had limited success with that. And we'd like to make it a little bit stricter so that we can actually have a more of an impact on the properties. We've been able to make a huge difference just on the educational value of the ordinance. If you recall, we took the first year of 2021 and we really didn't do any enforcement at all. It was just strictly educational.
Yes.
And it was not only educational to teach them, but it's to show us and provide us with data of what kind of problems we are going to face when we go to the enforcement side. You'll note some of the photos that are there that I've given you this evening. Some of the properties we've been able to get into the neighborhood enhancement programs. There's 2 of them that we've painted the outside of the structure, cleaned them, lots of brush. You'll see some of the pictures that were there. But those are some of the challenges for us. One of our major goals with this ordinance is we want to do this, but we want to do it very well. We want to do a good job of it. We want it to be a fair process. We want it to be consistent to what the laws of the state of Michigan and the ordinances of the city are. And we feel that using the property maintenance code may help us do that. The property maintenance code is an international recognized code, and it's structured. It's kind of like saving us from reinventing the wheel. There are a lot of cities that do use this. Sometimes they've adopted the entire ordinance. Sometimes they've adopted just sections of it. The thing that I like about it is it's a good solid platform. It gives answers to the reasons of why we're doing property maintenance code, and it's been tested in the courtroom. It's been tested to provide information to cities to help find creative solutions to problems. You know, we're not going to be able to use NEP funds, the Neighborhood Enhancement Program funds, to replace or to fix every project, but there has to be some other ways that we can create some economic funds to restore some of those properties. But to do that, we have to have the ordinance first so that we can show the need for other types of programs like that. We will be able to collect that data, show the need, and move forward with that. The IPMC, part of that is adopted already by the city under the housing licensing code. You know, 152, where it's for the rental properties. And this will help make us more consistent in our enforcement. I'll give you some examples. We can go to a neighborhood and a landlord will have to bring his code up or maintain his property to the minimum standards. A homeowner isn't necessarily held to those same standards. So we hear that, well, that's not fair. You make us take care of our rental, but then they can do what they're doing on their property. So it would help that so that we could be consistent. But you got a lot of information in front of you, and it is, there's a lot of different angles we can look at it. I think it's, as with any of our ordinances, they're always a work in progress. We always do an evaluation of how are we doing this? How are we enforcing it? You know, our goal is not to come out strong and heavy and be enforcement. We want to educate our citizens as to what the ordinances are, help them understand them, look for possible solutions. We work with other organizations such as Habitat for Humanity. I work with neighborhood associations. Let's say this house is in this neighborhood association. Well, can we set up a neighborhood cleanup day? And can the neighborhood resource unit provide a dumpster for something like that? Or those are just a couple of examples. I also have got a lot of response from the Greeks Clean the Streets. This year, we've went to over 300 of them showing up to do different events. And they've been very active. And, you know, if we had somebody that needed their yard cleaned, I would have no problems calling them and see if we could set up something like that to get that done. You know, and these are for the people that don't have the resources to be able to do that. Because what we find when we're out in doing code enforcement is people that the minute they learn and understand what the rule is, they'll take care of it. Oh, I didn't know that. I'll get right to that. And we have other people that understand that, but don't take care of it. But once the enforcement side comes around, they're willing and they'll take care of it. And then we have some that just don't have the resources to do that. And our goal is not to take grandmother that can't paint her house and write her a ticket. That's not the goal of this at all. What this is to get in front of that. You'll see some of the houses there. There's one there that you may be able to still tell that it used to be white. And you probably all know where the house is. We need an ordinance like this to get in front of that house before it gets to the condition that it's in. Because now it's a condemned house. The building official has posted it unsafe for habitation. And there's no good solutions to fix that. You know, but if we can find it before it gets that bad, try to find some creative solutions, try to work with other groups, maybe to prevent it from getting to that far down the ladder. It would be beneficial, but there's a lot of ways to go about doing that. And sometimes those problems are overwhelming because there's a lot of them, more than what we realize. And that's why I say it's always a work in progress.
Yes.
And code enforcement isn't about writing tickets, it's about educating, and it's about helping people solve the problems. But sometimes we do have to change the behavior and a ticket is issued. I will email that, the whole IPMC out to you so you can see it. One of the things I like about it, and the mayor does have a copy of the current edition that the fire department is using for rental inspections.
Okay.
And it talks about the goals of each of the chapters. What is that goal of having this ordinance, of having this section in that ordinance, and what's it to address? How does it address it? And it's structured and it's on a platform. And to me, it's not myself creating a process to try to fix a problem. It's something that's already out there in the world and people are using. And it may be beneficial for us to see if we can use that to help us with some of the problems.
What are some of the things that you find the largest challenges when you're working with individuals? Is it that they just are like, yep, I know, and then walk back into their house? Or is it the large issues within that yard?
So a number of large issues. Sometimes you'll see one of them near the end of your packet where we actually sent out a correction notice to the property owner that their vehicle didn't meet the requirements of an operable vehicle in the state of Michigan. And this is an elderly man that has two vehicles that have parked in his yards in disarray, flat tires, but he keeps the air in the tires, he keeps the vehicles licensed. And so that could meet a portion of it. Well, when we rewritten the ordinance in 2020, we made it a little beefier. So now we have the right, if I can prove that vehicle hasn't moved in 30 days, I can take a picture of it. I can document that it hasn't moved. It hasn't moved in 10 years, okay? Now I can knock on the door and say, sir, does your vehicle run? Does it have a battery in it? Because it's supposed to be an operable vehicle. Where before I didn't necessarily do that. If he's unwilling to do that, we could write the citation. We haven't yet. We're still working on it. I've yet to find anybody that hasn't had shown major improvement.
Okay.
But sometimes the improvement isn't that much better, and it's a continual process. And I can understand educating you once, maybe twice, but more than that, I think I'm kind of being taken advantage of, or the city's being taken advantage of.
Yeah.
But a lot of times it's just somebody doesn't want to get rid of something. It might be and we run into the elderly they're on a fixed income. They're not healthy. So we try to handle that gingerly so that we don't create any of those problems. We want to be part of the solution.
Yeah.
And that's how we look at it. Sometimes we're not perceived that way.
Yeah.
That's okay.
But anytime that you're trying to educate, or in what we're doing here is we're trying to change behavior.
Correct.
Is the way we do that is we tell them what we need them to do and we give them a time frame, and then we tell them what the consequences are if they don't meet the time frame, right? And we have to be consistent with that.
Correct. That's
And
no
that's the
different
hardest
than.
part.
That is the hardest part. Some people move into the city and don't realize the ordinances are there. They don't realize that you're not allowed to have rubbish or building materials or car parts, those sorts of things. So it becomes an educational opportunity, which we try to do the best we can.
Yeah.
But at the same point, they have to be willing to make the change and show some improvement. And if they're not willing, that pretty much ties our hands. We have to we'll move forward with the enforcement.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
I have just a quick one.
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't there an ordinance established for a lot of the rental properties in like the main Washington district? And how does that affect, like, if there's a issue with one of those rental properties, I was under the understanding that they couldn't make any changes to those properties at this point.
Some of them, if they want to remodel them or build them, they have some zoning requirements that are really outside of my forte.
Yeah, this is me asking, just,
Now,
and how does this affect that? Or does it not?
I don't really think that will affect it, but as we get into this more, we're going to definitely be working right next to zoning and the building officials to see what type of an impact possibly adopting the entire, or the IPMC will have on that, because it does talk about having homes that are condemned. I mean, it lays the process out to condemn a home, what you have to do that, those sorts of things. And we already have some of those in place in the Michigan Residential Building Code, which is what we follow.
I was just curious if there was a conflict there.
Yeah. If it is, we'll have to work our way through that.
Makes sense.
So you said the 2020 adoption didn't work. Why didn't it work?
Well, we tried it the first time in 17, and we didn't get an ordinance through at all because it was too strict, too confining. And sometimes we need to have the enforcement tool to get it started. If I can't have the conversation with somebody and tell them that they need to pick this up and this is why, and I show them the ordinance, I educate them on what it is. But if the ordinance isn't specific enough, and then it becomes subjective, and then they don't understand it. So the one thing that's really important is to have clear, concise language in that, which is why I really like the property maintenance code, because it's been tested and tried, and it's been out there for a while. I did include a copy of our current property maintenance standard. That's at the end of your packet. You can read down through there. You know, when you start looking at definitions of what we call junk, trash, rubbish, it's kind of vague, and we can add more to it. Let me give you some prime examples. Now, if I drive over to your house, Commissioner Chapman, and I look and I see, and you have 2 5-gallon buckets sitting next to your house, and out in the corner you have 4 or 5 2-by-4s, and maybe you have pieces of a bike on the other side of the house. Any one of those probably wouldn't qualify as blight. But when you start putting them all together, and then you step back, it looks like blight, or could look like blight. And it's a lot worse than that. That's why we try to get those things defined, so we can explain that to our citizens so they understand what exactly we're talking about. And I don't necessarily, when it's vague like that, they don't understand it, they become argumentative.
Well, and I think reading this, it says it shall be unlawful for any person to fail to improve and maintain all property under the person's control, whether owner, tenant, manager, or otherwise. I mean, that's pretty vague, right?
Yeah.
So that's concerning.
It allowed us to have some
I
discussion.
understand. No, I understand. But for me to just say, yeah, listen, I have a very nice home, and I spent a lot of money to get a rental license on my house, and my house was very nice, right? So I look at this and I think, man, I know many of these, I know every one of these houses in here. I've been by them and in them, right? So I understand. But when language is very vague, that can cause a lot of problems too. So, because I know I have a very nice house. Me and my wife have done a lot of work to keep it up, and I still had to spend a ton of money. And so looking at these, I mean, people obviously have homes like these because they can't often afford to take care of them, specifically these ones. Some people just don't take care of them, I understand that. But with language like this, this can easily, and I understand again, the goal isn't to ticket people, but you can. If this is in there, you can, and that's why language is important, right? And so.
Correct.
When it's so vague, it's like, it's just cause for concern to say, well, now I have a 2x4, I have right? And I understand what you're saying, but that language is important.
And what was the feeling behind the property standards at the beginning is that, well, you're gonna come into my yard and tell me that I have to paint my house, that I have to, no? Yeah, yes, but no. We're gonna educate you what the rules are and why they are here. And it's no different than any of the ordinances that we have in the city. One of the things that I found out by talking with people is somebody will have a viewpoint, and their viewpoint is that is the dumbest ordinance you've ever put before us. And then there'll be 4 other people going, that's the best one, because of the way they're looking at it.
Sure.
Their view.
Well, nobody wants trash in our city. I mean, we don't want that. So I think that's of huge importance. I just think clarity is helpful.
And I couldn't agree more, and that's one of the reasons why I like the IPMC, is it's put together already, and it spells things out. And actually, what I will be sending you is the commentary to the IPMC, which gives you more explanation as to why it's this way, and how it's progresses from even how we'd enforce things. It lays it out in a systematic process. We want to make the ordinance stronger so that we can identify properties, so that we can identify problems, and then we can sit down and have some conversations about, geez, how are we going to find a solution for this? We have, and believe me, it won't take long, and this is not a fix-all that, oh, we're going to create this ordinance and we're going to fix everything overnight. No, we're just probably beginning, but because our goal isn't to go out and hold people to a standard that they can't afford, but we want to, if we can find solutions and be part of that and direct them into different organizations, different people, different groups, and we get improvement, that's better for the city.
Any other questions or comments?
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Is this something that I can?
Yes, you can get that back to me later anytime,
Okay,
but
I'd like to read through it. It's got some good
we don't
definitions in
keep
it.
too many paper copies. Otherwise I would have brought more, and I don't want to copy them, but I do have it digitally, and so I'll send it out to you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right, it seems to be, Aaron.
I was just going to say, if the city commission that is interested, Assistant Fire Chief Lobsinger did say he would send the full version of the International Property Maintenance Code to the city commission.
Yes.
We'd love the city commission to take a look at that, and then we could come back at another work session and talk further on the proposal.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that would be good. I'd appreciate that. Just like with any problem, there's always multiple solutions, multiple ways that we can come at it. And we, with something like this, it's never just, this is what we're going to do and this is how we're going to handle it. There's a lot of gray area there. But we also, like you said, we do have the Greeks that do a lot of volunteer work. It's part of their groups. There's also other groups in the area that do things like that as well. So I think that there are ideas out there. The more minds we have, the better ideas we get. So I appreciate it. We will come back to this. Like they said, they will give you the International Property Maintenance Code of, I think this one's of 2012. There's a lot of interesting information in here, just looking through this. And then we'll bring it back to a work session again. Okay. At this time, we're going to move on to the MML. what we learned at MML. Mary, would you like to go first?
Sure. Sure, I'll go first. Well, I should start by saying I love going to conferences. And it's hard for me to pick one thing that was a highlight of it for me, or one thing that I really learned about. I could do that, but I kind of want to give an overview of what it meant to me to be there. First of all, Muskegon was a real wonderful city to have it in. They've spent a lot of time and money upgrading their downtown area. As we walked and we went by this section that has like small shops in small buildings. And it's kind of a way for businesses to have a startup. And you can go there and get a lunch, get some jewelry like we did, or, do whatever. Across the street from it, there's still, some property that is in progress of something's going to be done with it. So it's not a done deal yet, but they've done so much. And it really was a pleasure to be in that city. And speaking about parking, like we were doing the other day, I was a driver, so any day that I drove in from the hotel, it was always free parking. At least where I went, it was.
Yeah, in the downtown area, it's free
Yeah.
parking.
So that was real nice. So I did go to some different sessions on housing, and it seems like, especially a community like Muskegon and some of the other lake communities, they are having more of a struggle with short-term housing and kind of that business taking away from hotels. So they're having to really wrestle through those issues of, should those short-term housing units pay some kind of a bed fee like the hotels do? And to
Like
try to,
Airbnb?
make it more equitable and stuff like that. I don't know yet to what degree Mount Pleasant's, having that impact maybe a little bit with the casino, but that's for another day, I guess. We had a keynote speaker, Simone D. Sanders, that was just like a rock star. She ended up not only being an invited guest, but then she led a panel discussion. And I've never seen that before. Before what you would have seen is she would have been one of the members of the panel with her opinions. But she was just this rock star. She was great.
It was.
So it was like a fire up for public service. So in a way, she was preaching to the choir, because all of us that are there are either working for or elected officials. So anyhow, it was really good. Some of my other sessions I went to were about climate action plans and things like that. So, the thoughts that went through my head is, what are we doing with the dump? What are we doing with the river? So, it does have direct impacts on our community, and there are ways that we can get funding to help with some of that stuff. And let's see. My extra session, Maureen and I went to the art museum, so that was nice. Another session was about the American Rescue Plan funding for small and mid-sized communities. So I talked with Aaron just a little bit about it, and we are considered redevelopment ready. So that puts us in good standing to, take some steps to work on things like that. And then I thought a real highlight was a breakfast meeting that we had our last day with someone that actually lives in Mount Pleasant, who is a upper official in the DNR, and it's Dan Eichinger. He's with the DNR. So he was talking about the Spark grants that are for recreation access. And, we've had kind of ideas about what to do on the east side with Horizon Park and what to do with Island Park and pickleball versus tennis and all that. But, we might be able to get some grant funding to actually do something at Horizon Park, just since the east side of the city is a little bit less gifted with athletic, space. And probably the last thing I'll talk about was I went to a session about pattern book homes, and it just so happens that's on the front page of the magazine that you got today. And it's a kind of a neat idea where the MML is partnered with an architect, and developing plans for biplexes and quadplexes. And these buildings that they're proposing, that they have the architecture for, they have some specifics, like this would be the lot size, this is the building size, this is the cost for it, $250,000 for this building. But one of the things they learned along the way, and this was kind of funny, that this architect that they hired was from South Carolina, and then he learned along the way that, well, in Michigan, you don't have flat roofs, you have domed, because of the snow. And the other thing was, well, we have eaves. And in South Carolina, I guess they don't need to have those. And the other thing is these pattern book homes don't include garages, and many of us love our garages. But so anyhow, that was kind of my hodgepodge of me being someone that loves to go to conferences.
Yeah. I think mine is up here. Okay.
Thanks for sharing, Mary.
Thank you.
Whenever you guys get a chance to go to a conference or convention from MML, it is very, very beneficial.
Liz, did you ever get to go to the you've been newly elected, that one that they do?
I don't think so.
Because I know, I think Boomer's ready to go to one of those.
Yeah.
No, we went together, like virtually.
Maybe we did virtual. Oh,
Was
yeah.
that guy was there? Yeah.
Good.
No, we had a virtual one. That's why.
Yeah,
That's why. Yeah.
yeah, because they teach you things about meetings,
Yeah.
open
Yep,
meetings
we
and
had
all that
three
stuff.
different
Yep.
sessions. Yep, we did.
Yep,
Yeah,
we did
that's
that.
right.
All
But it
right,
was
so,
virtual.
It was virtual, yeah.
yeah, they're, whenever you're able to go to like the in-person ones, they're really good because they've got a lot of networking sessions and you meet so many wonderful people. In one of my sessions, I sat with the city manager of Grand Rapids and got to talk to him about some of the things that he was dealing with. So what I learned at MML, social media, space hacking, and problem solving. That last one, I already knew. So that was, but I got to talk to the city manager of Grand Rapids, and that was fun. So with social media, the one thing that we know about social media is that it's cheap, it's fairly free. It's cheaper, free, it's easy to use. There's offers two ways of communication, but in that you also get the good and the bad, right? It's effective in spreading news. When I spoke to the representative of Meta that was there, and I said, yeah, we just had this water crisis thing, and people were upset because they thought that we only sent it out on Facebook. And they were like, but they got the message. And I said, yes, but they were still upset thinking that they only had Facebook as the only way they got it, even though we used all of the different areas of news that we could. It's effective for spreading the news to a larger, diverse audience, but it's also really effective for creating and leading the news for our city, using social media to do that. It's a great tool if we use it correctly and we use it in a way that helps the community and the outside of Mount Pleasant see what's going on. Now with space hacking, this is one of the things that I was very interested in. You know, we have the CMU-RC, which is an incubator. It helps start, grow businesses, and then they, hopefully they go out and they become part of our business structure in Mount Pleasant. Well, one of the things that they talked about in the space hacking was taking small spaces or taking storefronts and putting up almost being like a little vendor venue where people could come in and they would have a booth kind of thing. And they would be able to rent that space, and the city or the organization that would run it would help them with business planning, with understanding the ins and outs of financing and how they were handling. Were they charging enough? Were they getting enough back? Were they able to produce their product and still have a revenue? That was one thing that I was very interested in, and they are doing that in Lansing. Another thing is the develop events where that include vendors. Now, we just had at the downtown pitch, we had a young person come forward with this wonderful pitch of a festival downtown that would invite vendors and bring in a lot of artisan from around the area. This would be very similar to that, is just bringing people in. One of the things that Lansing is doing, they call it the Makata Center or the Makata Club. It's the first floor of a professional building that's not being utilized. In that professional building, they have 15 small restaurants/bars. The organization created a joint kitchen. So all of these restaurants, bars have this one kitchen to work out of in the center, and then they have their space within that building where they have their restaurant. Now, they do this because this gives a person who's like, my kids think my meatloaf is amazing and I really want to sell it to the public. We're going to try this restaurant. We're going to, home style stuff. But they don't have the funds to do a true brick and mortar yet. Because with a true brick and mortar, you have either you buy the building or you're renting, you have all of the utility cost, all of that stuff. Within this space, they have the ability to try, hopefully succeed, but also fail, and then understand what happened. They have people, the city or organizations, sometimes like the community colleges, will help them with business plans, with understanding budgeting, understanding how to, food safety, all of that stuff. And they have these wonderful restaurants where you can travel in the bottom of this, the first floor of this building, and find these amazing foods that you wouldn't find if they weren't given this opportunity. You wouldn't find these kind of restaurants. And then they encourage them. The whole idea is to create this incubator for these small restaurants, these unique restaurants, so that they grow, develop, and then go brick and mortar someplace downtown. It's all about developing the businesses. It's about helping the downtowns thrive. And that's what was really kind of caught my eye, was that whole, we just need to learn how to help people grow, just like helping people figure out what's in their yard that they don't need, how to make their houses be better. We put programs out for that all the time. We need to also look at these small businesses, because if you have 10 people out there, you have 5 to 6 of them that have an idea. And they want to try it, but they don't have the ability to, or they don't have the funding, or they just don't have the understanding of how it works. So that was very exciting for me. And I already have a building in mind downtown that would work really well for that. I'm going to have to talk to Jim about it. The next one was problem solving. And problem solving really is something we all can do by working together and finding solutions. The more people you bring to the table, the more ideas you get, the more understanding of how you want the culture of the city to be, how you want the culture of helpfulness to be within the city. And, the way we develop the culture in our city helps us be high functioning and efficient. That was my whole one. And then I think I have Maureen's on here too. Is that true? Yes, okay. All right. Yes.
While you're looking for that, one example that I can give of your discussion on space hacking
Yes.
would be Ignite Donuts.
Yes.
Right, so they started really incubating in MMBC.
Yes, that might be the building I'm thinking of. Yeah.
But they've gone on to have a brick and mortar place down at Stadium Hall. So, yeah, it took them a while, but,
Yeah, but giving them that little extra help, giving them a space, reducing their expenses so that they can build up their equity, really important. But yeah, I remember when they were moving out of there, and they were, getting all of their stuff to move into their new space.
well, there's a couple of friends from CMU that
Yes.
graduated, and they had that.
Yeah, no, it's been great. I love going down to Ignite. All right, so this is Maureen's, her takeaway from MML. Her sessions, the conference she stayed was very informative. She gained a lot of knowledge of possible projects and actions. The general sessions were good, creating a municipal climate action plan. She also went to the Law Enforcement Action Forum, LEAF. She attended one of the breakfasts, and she went to a session that was about intersecting law enforcement and mental health, and then she did the museum tour. I was supposed to do a bike tour, but unfortunately, I got a call from my office, and we have apartments above my office, and somebody overflowed a bathtub, and we were trying to get a hold of the landlord, and so I was in my hotel room talking to people. Simone Sanders from MSNBC was there. Very amazing woman, very energetic, very knowledgeable, has as young as she has an arm length of, or more, of experiences that she has had in administrations that she has worked for. Very, very, very good. Like Mary said, she did not only speak on her own, she also ran a panel, which is very interesting. One of the things she talked about is that we have to think about things differently, and that we have to teach people where they are. And that's what you do, Doug. You go out to that home and you teach them where they are. This is what needs to happen. This is why it needs to happen. And that's the way we should be. Intersecting law enforcement and mental health, recommended compassionate booking. Not sure what that is, but I'm assuming that it's taking into account how an individual is, the state that they're in when you're doing some of the things, and then the crisis response training. When I went to the mayor's convention, we did a crisis response training, which was very interesting. They had creating a municipal climate action plan. What is our protocol for climate emergencies? Our greenhouse emissions inventory. Have we done this? Are we considering this? Environmental Advisory Board. I don't think we have one within the city, but we have the Mount Pleasant Climate Action or Climate Commission, and I think we have a county one as well. Maybe, I'm not sure. But I know that we have, I'm on a board that brings a bunch of us together that talk about, things that we can do to help increase the climate understanding and environmental action within the city and the county. The LEAF, Law Enforcement Action Forum, they talked a lot about policies. She said the questions for her were, have we reviewed the policies? How often do we review our policies? What policies do we have? And are our policies up to date? Paul, did you write that down?
I've been doing policy updating
Mhm.
and rewriting for the last 2 years. I am happy to say we are up to date.
Good.
Best practices. I couldn't be proud.
Good. Good, because whenever we're looking at these things and we're trying to move forward, we have to constantly put them under that microscope and say, is this still working for us? Just like with any of our ordinances that we have, they're living documents. They're constantly changing. And that's it. Like I said, anytime you guys have a chance to go, they are definitely worth it. All right, are there any other questions, comments, concerns? Yes.
Just one, that the Spark Grants have their opening for their first round coming up real soon, and there's a webinar tomorrow.
All right. Any other statements from the City Commission? All right, at this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move.
Is there a second?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, all those in favor say yes?
Yes.
All those opposed, no. We are adjourned at 8:12.